rahmatullahi for men's, where very shortly, along this very red carpet, Hazrat Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Nasrihil Aziz, will come to this very marquee, and the Bai'at or the initiation ceremony will take place. It's a very simple ceremony. It's a ceremony where one reflects and where one ponders over their allegiance to the Khalifa of the time and Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam. There is no time for music, there is no place for music. There is a very simple table, and the table is simple, the people are simple, the only beating here is the beating of hearts. We leave you here with scenes of this, and we continue with our broadcast.
You are welcome. उस पे बंदा कोई भी नहीं रह गया वहाँ से कुर्सियाँ कुछ लोग उठा के ले गए ठीक है एक बात ये पोस्ट पे चले जाओ आप ठीक है और दूसरा ये गेट नहीं कोई भी मैन कर रहा और तुम साथ से कोई गेट पे कोई बंदा भेजे
Assalamu alaikum. बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्लाह ताला के फजल से साल रवां में बैतों की मजमूई तादाद जैसे कि मैंने कल भी बताया था 2,17,168 है। 114 ममालिक से तकरीबन 430 से ज़ायद कौमों के लोग अहमदियत में दाखिल हुए अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। और गुज़श्ता साल की निस्बत 40,332 का इजाफा हुआ है। अब हम बैत करेंगे। मेरे पीछे तर्जुमा भी होगा इस साल दोबारा, इसलिए रुकना पड़ेगा कुछ। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाहु वहदहु ला शरीका लहू व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु। अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाहु वहदहु ला शरीका लहू व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु। I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah. He has one, has no partner. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his servant and messenger. I entered this day the Ahmadiyya Jamaat in Islam at the hand of Masroor. I have firm faith that Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Khatam al-Nabiyeen, the seal of all the prophets. I also believe that Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salatu wasalam was the same Imam Mahdi, promised Messiah, whose advent was prophesied by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I promise that I will always try my best to abide by the 10 conditions of Bai'at as prescribed by the promised Messiah alayhi salam. I will give precedence to my faith for all worldly objects. I will always remain loyal to the institution of Khilafat in Ahmadiyyat and will obey you as Khalifatul Masih in every good that you may require of me. Inshallah.
Todo lo bueno vuelve a requerir un hijo si Dios quiere.
Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh. Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh. Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh. I beg pardon from Allah, my Lord, for all my sins and turn to Him.
Pido perdón a Allah, mi Señor, por todo el pecado y me vuelvo hacia Él.
رب إني ظلمت نفسي واعترفت بذنبي فاغفر لي ذنوبي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. O my Lord, my Allah, I wronged my soul and confess all my sins. Pray, forgive me my sins, for there is none else except Thee to forgive. Ameen.
Todos mis pecados, lo digo que perdones, no hay nadie excepto tú que pueda perdonar. Amén.
अब मैं उर्दू में भी इस बैत के अल्फाज दोहराऊंगा जो उर्दू जानने वाले हैं, पीछे दोहराते रहें. अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह वहदहु ला शरीका लहु व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु. अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह वहदहु ला शरीका लहु व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु. आज मैं मसरूर के हाथ पर बैत करके जमात अहमदिया मुस्लिमा में दाखिल होता हूँ. मेरा पुख्ता और कामिल ईमान है कि हज़रत मोहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम खातमुन नबीयीन हैं. मैं हज़रत मिर्ज़ा ग़ुलाम अहमद कादियानी अलैहिस्सलातु वस्सलाम को वही इमाम मेहदी और मसीह माऊद तस्लीम करता हूँ जिसकी खुशखबरी हज़रत मोहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने अता फरमाई थी. मैं वादा करता हूँ कि मसीह माऊद अलैहिस्सलाम की मुकर्रर फरमूदा 10 शराइत बैत का पाबंद रहने की पूरी कोशिश करूँगा. दीन को दुनिया पर मुकद्दम रखूँगा. खिलाफत अहमदिया के साथ हमेशा वफा का ताल्लुक़ रखूँगा और बहैसियत खलीफतुल मसीह आपकी तमाम मारूफ हदायत पर अमल करने की कोशिश करूँगा. अस्तग़फिरुल्लाह रब्बी मिन कुल्लि ज़ंबिन व अतूबु इलैह. अस्तग़फिरुल्लाह रब्बी मिन कुल्लि ज़ंबिन व وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله ربي من كل ذنب وأتوب إليه رب إني ظلمت نفسي واعترفت بذنبي فاغفر لي ذنوبي إنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت اے میرے رب میں نے اپنی جان پر ظلم کیا اور میں اپنے گناہوں کا اقرار کرتا ہوں تو میرے گناہ بخش تیرے سوا کوئی بخشنے والا نہیں آمین اب دعا کر لیں آمین کون وہ کون ہے السلام علیکم
The sea of reefs and corals, the land of luscious forests and tropical breezes, a captivating blend of diverse cultures and doubles, lots of doubles.
This is called doubles. I'll block out this. It's basically a chickpea sandwich.
There you go.
Let me hold it.
In the heart of the Caribbean Sea, amidst the vibrant tapestry of cultures and traditions, a profound chapter in the history of faith unfolds.
They didn't know a soul.
He created hysteria. Maulvi Muhammad Ali Saki, he who started the class.
The Lahori Jamaat had actually been there even before our Jamaat.
My para was the first indigenous missionary to go enter Jamia.
After that, I came out and I walked around the back of the car and I saw that my father was on the ground with a big pool of blood.
My father felt it so much as though he lost a blood brother.
I received the glad tidings that Hazur was coming to visit.
I travel a lot from east to west, north to south, and I've been able to meet people from different countries of the world. And one of the missions of the Ahmadiyya community in Islam is to bring mankind together.
May 7th, 1952, the first ever Ahmadiyya Muslim missionary, Maulana Muhammad Ishaq Saki Sahib, arrived in Trinidad by boat with his family. He was sent by Hazrat Muslim Maud, may Allah be pleased with him, to propagate the message of Islam across the island.
My father came when he was 20. He was ferocious. Man comes and you invite 50 people. You have to make sure and cook food for about 300 people because they only have to hear Maulvi Saki is coming and they will arrive.
There were a few faithful Muslims, including Mr. Juman Ali and Mr. George Hossein, who first met the missionary and would be instrumental in propagating the message of Islam. Early Jamaats were established in Diego Martin, Freeport, and Marabella.
There were so many people who actually flocked to him, non-Ahmadi Muslims, Hindus and Christians, and they listened to him because he came with a subtle message, a message filled with hope.
And people up to this day will say that he is an angel without wings. And that was because of Ahmadiyyat. It was because of his identity being an Ahmadi.
During our team's tour of the vibrant island of Trinidad, we had the honor to visit every Ahmadi mosque. Let us first go to Karatal, straight to the geographical heart of the nation.
In Karatal, he started giving maktab lessons, and there were about 8 or 10 families, the older heads who came.
Under the guidance of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, Maulana Saki Sahib was able to build the first mosque of the Jamaat in Karatal. The land was donated by Yad Ali Sahib and his brother. The construction was completed in 1962.
It was made up of palm branches and leaves. We call it a thatched house. And that is where the early Ahmadis started praying.
Among the early converts in Trinidad and Tobago was Muhammad Hanif Yaqub and his family.
My father started asking questions, and when he heard of the answers that he got from Ahmadi missionary, he was totally satisfied. In 1953, he and his two brothers were the first to take Bai'at at the hands of that missionary.
He played a significant role in promoting the Jamaat's teachings and was later sent to Pakistan in 1954 to study in Jamia Ahmadiyya.
My father was the first indigenous missionary to go enter Jamia. When he came back, he was the junior missionary to Maulvi Saki. Again, they worked assiduously to help the Jamaat, spread the Jamaat as far as possible.
And he actually took over from the late Maulvi Muhammad Ishaq Saki. That time he was ailing, and this young man did a yeoman service. He worked extremely hard in all the corners of this country. He preached the message of Ahmadiyyat.
He worked tirelessly to uplift the community and successfully constructed the first mosque of the community in Freeport in 1967, named Masjid Nasir. Throughout its brief history, the Jamaat in Trinidad and Tobago had encountered numerous trials and tribulations. The path to conversions proved arduous, compounded by the pre-existing establishment of the Lahori Jamaat.
So one of the interesting things about the Caribbean generally is that the Lahori Jamaat had actually been there even before our Jamaat. So they were there in the 1930s. They came there as traders and businessmen and so on. Some of the few remaining leaders of the Lahori Jamaat used to come there from Pakistan, because this was one of the few places where there were some Lahori Ahmadis in some number.
There was a missionary by the name of Maulvi Ansari. He said that he don't belong to Lahori. He don't belong to any Jamaat. He is just a missionary. And he used to preach, and he accepted the Promised Messiah's teachings. And one day, while they was putting up the dome on the mosque, they was talking about Ahmadis. And it so happened, news came that an Ahmadi missionary is coming to Trinidad. And he was very excited, only to realize when Maulvi Ishaq Saki came here, immediately the very next day, he turned his tongue and said that he's a Lahori Ahmadi, and he do not accept the Promised Messiah.
Certain members of the Jamaat gradually distanced themselves, contributing to the prevailing difficulties.
So in 1983, he was sent to Guyana, and then missionary from Guyana, who was Maulana Aslam Qureshi Sahab, he came to Trinidad.
In 1983, Maulana Aslam Qureshi Sahib arrived in Trinidad. He worked hard to spread the teachings of the community and foster greater unity among the members.
There was the existing Jamaat, which had some, there was an Amla and there were an active group of people. But there were also different sets of people who had, for one reason or the other, drifted away from Jamaat over the years and decades in some cases. And when my father was appointed, they slowly started approaching my father. And whatever their troubles were or issues were, they came and spoke to my father. And I remember listening to some of those things, and his guidance usually was, write to the Khalifa Waqt and unconditionally apologize for whatever has happened and come back, a new person. By the grace of Allah, several people, many people, rejoined Jamaat who had drifted away from Jamaat.
One of his greatest achievements was the construction of the first mosque in Siparia, located in the southern part of Trinidad.
हमको हासिल खिलाफत का साया हुआ हम पे फजले खुदा हर कदम पर हुआ हमको हासिल खिलाफत का साया हुआ.
One of the close friends of Maulana Qureshi was Mirza Sakur Beg, a respected member of the community. He was once a bitter opponent of Ahmadiyyat, but was later introduced to the true teachings by Maulana Saki Sahib when he moved to Siparia in 1957.
When Maulana Qureshi came to Trinidad, he visited him, and then they struck up a friendship. He really, really loved Maulana Qureshi, and he considered him a brother. And he would come home for lunch, and they would always be talking, and he'd be gaining knowledge and asking questions. And because of his love for reading, and he loved to debate, so he would debate a lot about religion, and he decided that he would read the books of the Jamaat, the Promised Messiah, so to prove from their own books that Ahmadiyyat is wrong. The more he read, the more he realized this is the truth. And he spoke to my mother at length, and he realized that he had to accept it.
At the time, Mirza Sakur Beg was serving as the Imam of a non-Ahmadi mosque in Siparia for 23 years.
People loved him very much, but when he studied Ahmadiyyat and he accepted Ahmadiyyat, that was in 1984, he was asked to leave. He went straight from being loved to being hated.
Despite facing opposition from some members of his former congregation, by the grace of Allah, Mirza Sakur Beg, along with a few other members of the Jamaat, were able to construct a new mosque in 1985.
Mr. Kamar Ali, he donated this piece of land, so we would do namaz at his home, and he a piece of land at the back of his home. So immediately my father set in motion to build this mosque.
This is our mosque here, our branch at Siparia. Across here, there's Mission Hall. Presently, we're in the process of construction. We're constructing a play park and a car park.
Imam Beg remained the Imam for the mosque until Maulana Muzaffar arrived in 2004, by which time all of his 7 children and grandchildren residing in Trinidad had accepted Ahmadiyyat, and several other families had joined the Jamaat.
One of his daughters lived in the very southern southwest tip of Trinidad called Ikakas.
The love that I would feel there
with her. Anytime, in fact, when I would go, her eyes would always be watery, and she's always panicking or worrying a little bit, saying that, I can't believe a missionary is coming to my house and I'm not able to serve them the way I would like to. When she passed away, all the people of the village, they would all say that, an angel passed away. That this lady, she is the one who brought Islam in that area, and she taught them everything.
August 10, 1985. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community in Trinidad and Tobago was facing relentless opposition from its enemies, who were determined to undermine its progress. Unfortunately, tragedy struck the community on that fateful night.
The incident happened, from my recollection, around just after Maghrib. My father needed to go to some Ahmadi's house, so he wanted to borrow a book. The gentleman's name was Isfahani Ujir. So I went with my father. On the highway, when we were going there was a car following us. So again, as I said, these kind of things happen on and off. What happened is that it was a white Jeep. It would come in front of us, and then it would slow down and force us to overtake him. And then he would come around again. And so he did that 2 or 3 times on the main highway that we were heading north on. This person's house was the last house in the village. And as it happens, that day they had just poured concrete in their driveway. We went to their house, met them. My father took the book. When we came back, we needed to do a U-turn, or we needed to turn around on that road. It was a very narrow road, and the driveway itself was, raw concrete. Concrete hadn't set. So instead of turning around there, we went down the hill. There was a little stream with a little bridge on it. We over that bridge, and then across that, around some corner, and there was what I would call jungle or bush there. Basically, there were no houses there. And then there was a clearing on the right-hand side to the direction we were headed. I noticed that there were some cars there. So I said, again, I just commented to my father that there are some cars there. And he said, oh, there are some farms with the back there. Maybe there's some workers from that farm. In that clearing, my father turned the car to turn around. As soon as he turned there and stopped the car, at the moment, even just he was stopping the car, some men came running out of the car, of the other cars that were there. And they had guns in their hands. So 1 or 2 went to my father's side. I think 2 of them. One came to my side with a gun and kind of pushed me down with the gun. And they shouted some words, but I don't remember what the words were. Just noise, basically. And then just within seconds, there was a shot, the sound of a shot. I had been pushed down, so I was ducked down, and my heart was racing very much. So just after a few seconds, I looked up and I saw that the same Jeep, that white Jeep, and men were running into those cars. As I looked, they drove away. And the car was on, and it was just, there was silence. After that, I came out, and I walked around the back of the car, and I saw that my father was on the ground with a big pool of blood. And I remember when I saw my father, this like an involuntary sound of, pain came from my throat, basically. I scream, whatever you want to say. He obviously had died already.
ये दर्द रहेगा बन के दवा तुम सब्र करो वक्त आने दो।
अब मैं एक दर्दनाक खबर से भी आपको मुत्तले करता हूँ, जो बहुत मेरे लिए इंतहाई दर्द का मूजिब भी बनी, मगर ये है ऐसी चीज़, जैसा कि मैंने कहा था, कि इस दर्द में एक अल्लाह की तरफ से एक एजाज़ भी पाया जाता है, एहसान भी पाया जाता है। ये वो दर्द है जो अपने प्यारों को अता करता है हमेशा। ये वो दर्द है जो अपने दुश्मनों को अता नहीं किया करता, यानी शहादत का दर्द। अभी चंद दिन पहले हमारे एक बहुत ही मुखलिस और फिदाई मुजाहिद इस्लाम वाक़िफ़ ज़िंदगी कुरैशी मोहम्मद असलम साहब को बड़े जालिमाना तौर पर कत्ल करवाया गया है। अल्लाह ताला शरीरों से खुद इंतकाम ले, और जहाँ तक हमारा ताल्लुक़ है, हमने वही इंतकाम लेना है कि बदी का बदला हुस्न से अता करना है, और यही हमारी कोशिश रहेगी।
It was really very shocking. My father was not at home, so somebody had to go and tell him. We didn't have telephones in those days, a lot, and somebody had to go and tell him. And that was a very hard thing. My father felt it so much as though he lost a blood brother, because his brothers weren't inclined to Islam. So, and his life was Islam. So when he found this connection, he found a brother.
Hazur said that I was so deeply saddened and hurt by this matter that for 2 days or so, I could not meet people's eyes or gaze. I didn't want to look at even anyone, that in case they can see what condition my heart is in. I was in so much pain from this incident.
Shortly after, the family flew to London and remained in close company of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV.
Just a few weeks after I got there, I saw a dream in which I saw my father. And I saw in the dream that my father is somehow back somewhere. I don't remember what the location was, and he's back. And I was very surprised, and I said, "Bajan, how come you're back? You were martyred." And then he touched his anguti, the ring, the elastilla ring, and he said, "Bhala shahidon ko bhi ko maar sakta hai. Can someone kill a martyr?" And so it was a nice dream, and I used to go and tell Hazur everything. So I took arranged mulaqat, went to Hazur, and I related this dream. And as I related the dream, I broke down and started crying, really crying. So again, Hazur comforted me, gave me his handkerchief, and he said some words to me which helped me immensely. He said, "Isko मामले को अल्लाह ताला पे छोड़ दो. Leave this matter to God. Allah Taala iska badal lega. God will take revenge for this matter." And as I heard those words, they acted like a balm on me immediately. And so immediately after that, I can tell you honestly, as you know, God is my witness, that I lost all anxiety or fear or any even memory of pain even. Everything kind of just went very calm.
The martyrdom of Maulana Aslam Qureshi Sahib impacted greatly upon the entire Jamaat Ahmadiyya of Trinidad and Tobago. The community was in total shock, and there was the fear that the community would suffer great setbacks.
वो भी हैं कुछ जो के तेरे.
By the grace and mercy of Allah, who planted the seed of Ahmadiyya through the blessed hand of the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, the Jamaat pushed through and survived this great catastrophe.
I received a message that Huzur wanted to see me. And when I went, he beckoned me to sit down. Then Huzur said, "When you go, take those people who actually are prepared to work with you, take them along and work with them. Those who wouldn't, who will stay on the fence, of course, pray for them." And that is how we came to Trinidad.
The Jamaat had shrunk to a very small amount.
The Jamaat was in disarray, and then there was no missionary, and there was no one holding the Jamaat together.
When I came in, the story regarding the assassination of the late Qureshi Sahib was hanging over my head. I was very frightened. I was very worried. I was terrified. Luckily enough, I was taken to the first missionary's residence to meet with him at Barataria, he and his wife. As soon as I saw them, I felt so much of relief. They gave me paratha and also chicken stew. And after I had eaten, I started falling asleep on myself. Then the late Saki Sahib asked me, "You are sleepy, go and then sleep." I didn't know what to say, but then he led me home, that go and sleep in my room, on my bed. I was completely flabbergasted in terms of, look at me, who I am, in terms of my ethnicity. It doesn't matter. Of course, I'm a missionary, but I was looking deep inside me. I'm an African. a slave of Khilafat, this man, a Pakistani, a missionary, to sleep in his bed. I slept like a baby, like a log, because I had not slept for more than 1 week. And that was the beginning of my relief.
That was the turning point. The Jamaat started taking its position as it is today, taking shape, and we start working together with him as best as possible. Jamaat Ahmadiyya became very known, very popular.
है शुक्र रब्बे अज़ा वजल खारिज अज़ बयां.
Lahoris were really popular in this country. There was no intention of mine, because Ghana, we don't have any Lahori influence, and I never thought that I want to influence them or anything for that matter. I think Allah did that. We started the Tablighi program whereby we would go to different areas. So there was this young doctor, and he was very enthused about the whole program, and he wants to ask questions. And from there, he used to come to the mission house, and every day he would be calling, every day. And you see that he was very, very impressed.
With the guidance of beloved Hazur, many devout Lahoris had converted to Islam Ahmadiyyat.
When they came in, that was the cream of the Lahori Jamaat. The missionary became very, very antagonistic against me and sending words of abuses. I didn't do anything. And calling me names, people come to tell me about it. You know, naive, I was naive. But it is Allah who did that.
At first, we belonged to the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Lahori group. And then my younger brother, Dr. Kamreen Muhammad, he is the one who really got in contact with the Jamaat, and he joined the Jamaat. And then we followed him after that. I took Bai'at at the hands of Fourth Khalifa in July 1991.
I joined around the same time like my brother, but I was in Canada at the time. I got a dream. And in the dream also, I saw somebody with a turban. At that time, I didn't know about Huzur wearing that to that extent. And I was seeing myself as though I was in a car, sitting at the back, and the driver in front was wearing this turban. And we were going up the hilly terrain, up and down and so on. I didn't know what the dream meant at that time. But when I came to Trinidad, back home, the first Friday Jummah we attended was in a place called Karatal. That was one of our new mosques built there. And the terrain was exactly like that. It was just uncanny. It came just like that.
Yes,
so I didn't need any more convincing that this is the Jamaat we have to be in.
I dreamt that we were sleeping one night and it was time for Salat. I was waking up for Salat, and there was the old mosque that we were attending, the old members and everything. And when I looked, they were facing west. They were praying facing west. And I stood and I said, it means to me that they're in the wrong direction. And for some reason, I never joined that Salat. The next day when I talked about it, I spoke to Amir Sahib about the dream as well. And in my mind, it was clear that Allah was telling me that that was the wrong direction.
By the sheer grace of Allah, in 1991, Trinidad and Tobago had the honor of hosting Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed, may Allah have mercy on him, the fourth Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community.
I received the glad tidings that Huzur was coming to visit Trinidad and Tobago. And when I relayed the message to the membership, they were very enthused. Everybody was very happy that Huzur was coming to this country for the first time.
We put our heads together and we had everything done quickly, efficiently, to the best of our ability to ensure that our Khalifa is treated as he should be.
बसर हो जिंदगी सारी खिलाफत के हिसाए में बसर हो जिंदगी.
Yeah, this is our beloved Hazur's namaz room, which we cherish very dearly. And this is his Jai namaz that he used. We preserve it. So this is the bench here that I used to lie down. I never used to sleep in case Hazur needs anything special, or if we hear him cough or even touch the door, we rush like firefighters.
During Huzur's week-long tour, the schedule was packed with meetings of various news stations, as well as Jamaat members, pioneer Ahmadis, and visiting different mosques around the country.
We spent those very enjoyable days. We even took him to Maracas Beach very early in the morning. And we went there and we spent some time and walk on the beach. You know, he said he enjoyed that, walking on the beach there. And then we came back. So those are my memories about him. And there we were with him everywhere, listened to him, his lectures, his questions and answers. And we also had our JALSA, annual JALSA at that time.
We were very blessed to have his presence here at this mosque. We had given the name of this mosque, Masjid Shahada, because Maulana Quraishi had recently been martyred. So we got a nice plaque made, and Hazur graciously came and officially inaugurated the mosque. He was right there in front of us, and he just had an aura of, of peace and piety.
We took Huzur around to all the mosques that we had at that time. His first visit was at Freeport Mosque, and we had a lecture that night there, and a lot of people were invited. Ahmadis, non-Ahmadis were there. He also came in this mosque, Makbeen Mosque here, and he spent one lecture session here, and he also went to the Karatal Mosque. And because we had just completed the Karatal Mosque tonight for him, in preparation for his visit. So he went to a totally new mosque. So we went and visited there, and he led also a lecture session there.
I travel a lot from east to west, north to south, and I've been able to meet people from different countries of the world. And one of the missions of the Ahmadiyya community in Islam is to bring mankind together. If you want one common color for the whole mankind, what would be the better than the color of Allah? And what is the color of Allah? That is His attributes. So one important message which I deliver to all the people is this: try to get dyed in Allah's attributes. Only then you can unify the mankind.
It was very fruitful. We spent our time as much as possible with Hazur, read namaz as much as possible as well. And that was it. The visit was too short.
There is no better opportunity in life to have that touch between God and you through our Khalifa. And if he led the world, the entire world would be heaven on earth.
हिसाए में बसर हो जिंदगी सारी खिलाफत के हिसाए में बसर हो जिंदगी सारी रोशनी का सफर रोशनी का सफर.
Surrounding the visit of Huzur, the Jamaat was progressing in leaps and bounds. There were more mosques and mission houses acquired, rebuilt, and constructed. One of these buildings was the reconstruction of the Karatal Mosque. Due to the deteriorating condition of the Karatal Mosque, the Jamaat decided to have it rebuilt and Baitul Arla was completed in 1990. The Ahmadiyya Jamaat has been actively engaged with the community in Trinidad and Tobago, showcasing their efforts in creating awareness of the Jamaat's teachings and building relationships around the country.
Yeah, the people in the surrounding area, most of them are Christians and few Muslim, but as we have very good connection with them, usually we go to see them, share leaflet with them, talk to them. Any program we have, we invite them. They've been accepting us, and this is how we interact with them, and we also try our best to convey the message of Jamaat to them, and connection between us and them is wonderful by the grace of Allah.
From a tiny hamlet in Qadian to the corners of the earth, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat has displayed remarkable resilience and growth. Despite facing persistent opposition, they have not only persevered, but also flourished, spreading their message of peace and unity to the furthest corners of the earth. The Jamaat in Trinidad and Tobago is just one of many of those locations with a remarkable testament to the triumph of the human spirit through trust in Allah. They began with only a handful of members and flourished to over 1,500 devotees. They have shown that in the face of adversity, each droplet of hope has the potential to create waves in an expansive ocean of endless possibilities.
रोशनी का सफर कादियां से चला रोशनी का सफर कादियां से चला कादियां से चला कादियां से चला
The promised reformer, the second advent of Islam, an intellectual discourse